Okay, everyone, we're doing our usual Travia has to sit and wait while I wait for Instagram to cue us up. Come on, Instagram. Go, go, go. There we go. Okay, we're live. Travia, it's fun to actually get to see your face.
It's
We
so
get
good to
to.
see you.
I feel like we have been through so many journeys together. So help everyone kind of locate you and who you are and kind of your background in this world of communication and corporate training and just helping people get connected better in all the ways that you do. How did this all start?
Yes. So my story, where it all started, honestly, this sounds so cliche. It really started in the womb. Really started in the womb of my mother, where my interest in communication is very odd, Tracy, very unplanned, and it was a matter of survival for me
Okay.
because I was born half deaf. So I was born with hearing loss, which a bilateral hearing loss is a technical term, which means I have hearing loss in both ears. So I have to wear hearing aids. And if I don't, which I didn't for a long time as a child because I was so embarrassed and got made fun of a lot, I really do suffer if I don't wear hearing aids. But because of having hearing loss from the time that I was born
Mm-hmm.
to now, I had to be extremely diligent in how I listened to people because otherwise I had no idea what they were saying. I couldn't rely on words alone.
Yeah,
So I had
amazing.
to read body language. I had to read facial expressions. So all these skills that are so important, right? Research shows they're so important in terms of us connecting with people, in terms of negotiations. I had to learn this subconsciously and how to read lips and so forth. And so I really learned how powerful attitude is, facial expressions, body
Mm.
language, all these nonverbal clues like nodding your head, right? I was able to really pick up on this. And it was really weird. It was actually very weird because sometimes there was inconsistency
Mm-hmm.
with what people would say and how they would say it. And I remember being confused sometimes, like, huh? Like, can you repeat that? And so it actually led, Tracy, ironically, to some mistrust
Mm.
with people as a young girl. This was in middle school and high school when I was picking up on this. A lot of it subconscious. And so that was a challenge I had, right? A challenge that kind of led to a weird interest in communication and a weird superpower, I would say. I had a lot of difficulty hearing people in noisy environments. Like I hated going to restaurants. You know how young adults they love being in loud social settings, not me.
Yeah, because you can't connect.
Because I couldn't connect. And so for me it was one-on-one conversations to really get to know somebody, which led to my interest of becoming a professional coach.
Mm.
And so that's a little bit about that journey. I'll pause there in case you have any further questions about
Oh,
that.
thank you for pausing because sometimes folks don't pause and that's part of the interaction. And then I'm like, I want to be in the connection with you. So, what I'm hearing you say is that because you were born with hearing loss in both your ears, I think this it's given you a little bit of a superpower because you can tell that when what somebody's saying isn't congruent with what they're actually feeling.
Yeah.
You track it way faster than somebody that has all their hearing tracks. But it did
Right.
leave an impact on you. It left you sort of, well, I'm not sure if I trust you if there's this incongruence. How did you
Absolutely.
how did you work with that as you grew into an
Yeah.
adult?
Yes. Well, it's kind of weird, right? It's really weird. Someone's smiling and they're saying something different, or vice versa, right? They are saying something that seems happy, but they don't seem happy in terms of their facial expression. They
Mm-hmm.
seem angry. And so, how did I cope? I think it was really through asking questions and asking people to repeat themselves and really slowing down the conversation to really make sure I understood what they were trying to convey. And that skill of asking questions, I think, really does serve me as an adult. I think it's
Mm.
one of the best skills. I think, and as a therapist, right? As a psychotherapist, how powerful it is to ask questions. I would say that's
Well,
probably the biggest thing.
I just know by being in relationship to you because you always ask me the stumper questions.
Yes. Yes. I
And
think
it's
questions are so powerful.
but you ask really incisive ones, I must say. So I guess I'm paying you a compliment. And especially because we've worked on projects together.
Yeah.
And so you'll ask me the questions that I hadn't considered, right? Which I really do appreciate. This turned into your profession, though. I'm curious that journey. Like how, okay, so I grew up as a kid needing to become extraordinary at communication skills because
Right.
I have bilateral hearing loss, but now it's your job. So how did
Right.
that journey unfold?
It's interesting. I think the connection there might be a little bit more of feeling isolated from somebody who was made fun of with hearing aids. Because back in the day, you couldn't hide them, right? Like back in the day, and I had beads in my hair and braids in my hair, and you could see my hearing aid. They were really big. Now you can hide them. They're so tiny. Technology had really advanced, but I felt very left out, very isolated. And I think that is what led me to really wanting to do some of the work that I do today as a professional coach to help empower people. So if people feel like they have a sense of rejection or they don't feel like they have a sense of belonging, I like to come alongside and encourage people and empower them to be whoever it is that they feel like they can be. The way this translates to my work as a leadership coach right now is I'm really focused on employee engagement and how do we as leaders listen to people on our team? How do we really coach them and empower them? How do we give them feedback that empowers them to be the best the person that they can be? And so listening, what I love about listening is it's really applicable in so many professions, whether it's teaching, nursing, psychotherapy like you, or in the business world like me.
Very cool. Well, so I'm curious if somebody is feeling a sense of this not belonging that you're describing in the workplace and you're wanting to empower them, what are the ways that because we don't always feel like we can let our full authentic self out in the workplace or will jeopardize our sense of belonging. So how do you
Right.
help people with that?
Yeah. So you're asking if somebody has a sense of they don't feel like they belong. How do I help someone alongside? Yeah. I think mostly through listening and asking what are some of the things that are going on for them and trying to unpack some of the things. What's interesting about belonging is rejection is very common with a lot of people and loneliness too. As you have done a lot of work around loneliness and helping people feel connected. Oftentimes I'm seeing more and more of that, and I'd love to hear from you too, Tracy, on that. But it's one of the things I'm hearing more so is that people are so lonely. They don't feel like they have a sense of community and people that they can really let their hair down with and trust. And so helping people build a sense of community, helping people build relationships
Mm-hmm.
is a technique that I like to take.
Mm-hmm.
Social connection.
Yeah. I think that there's you invited me to answer this question too, so I'm gonna take the invite. I think that there's something about when we feel different, we oftentimes look for those cues for rejection. I know that my inner critic will come out and I'll project my critic onto other people and assume that they're thinking as badly about my differences as I'm thinking about my differences.
Yeah.
And one of the best tools for I'm just going to speak for myself. One of the best tools for myself is to stop doing that, stop projecting my inner critic onto other people and assuming people are thinking the worst of me.
Yeah.
And then try to find common ground. What do we have in common?
Yeah.
Rather than trying to say, oh, they're not going to like this thing about me that's kind of weird and different and unusual.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what I'm going to connect with people around. I'm going to connect with them around the thing that we have in common. And then after that, then they'll start to embrace the things that are a little weird and unusual about me. Hopefully.
Yes.
Hopefully.
I think that's really powerful. It's finding common ground. What do we have in common instead of finding those things that are different? Because we do have that confirmation bias, right? Where when you look for things, you're looking for all the evidence, about why it exists. So if you feel different, if you feel like you don't have a sense of belonging, for example, for me, personal story, I remember when I was younger in the training world, I remember feeling really different because of comments people would make. Sometimes people would say, "Oh, I didn't know a woman was teaching this class." And I had somebody say, "Oh, I didn't know you'd be Black. I thought Black people worked in only entertainment and sports." And so I started getting self-conscious, right, about being different. And you're so right. Switching your attention to, okay, I'm this or I'm that, to what do we have in common? What is my purpose? And that's another thing I like to do. What's your mission? What's your purpose? Why are you doing the work that you're doing?
You've asked me those questions. Yeah, I mean, I love that you're bringing in, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, and you're saying, look, I actually don't want to spend a lot of time doing a bunch of this labor, obsessing about how that's going to leave me feeling badly. I'm going to orient towards the thing that could bond us. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. It's a lot of wasted energy about some things we can't change. Right. There's nothing I can do. Like, for example, for me, I can't do anything about being a Black woman. Although some might say it can lighten my skin color, right? I have no interest in doing that. And so it's a matter of like, what can I control and what can't I control?
Yeah.
And where am I going to put my intention and my energy? Am I going to focus on things that I can't control?
Mm.
Or am I going to put my attention and energy into things I can control?
Right. Right. I didn't put this in our note about, I was going to ask you, but you shared something with me about this kind of transformational time in your life where you did step away from work for a while and it really moved. And I think it just, to me, is so emblematic of who you are, this creativity and playfulness. Do you want to, how does creativity and playfulness now influence how you cope with not belonging, or how you cope with just the hardships of being a mom to 3 little children? I knew you before you had kids, so this just blows my mind that you have 3. Yeah, you had a kind of an awakening about that, and I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share parts of that.
Yeah. Well, I think what you might be referring to is my retreat center experience, perhaps. This is before I had children. Well, actually, I had just had my first child. Wow. So I have 3 children, for everybody to get the context. I have 3 children right now, all 6 and under. So lots of running around, toddlers in the house. And years ago, I lived on a retreat center, and I didn't have a job. I didn't have a title at all. It was just my husband, myself, and my 7-month-old baby at the time. And I spent a lot of time in nature, just looking up at the stars and the country. I never lived in a country before. Highly recommend it. Everybody needs to live in the country, even if it's for a few months, because the peace and the serenity of the environment can absolutely calm your nervous system down. I didn't realize how I lived in Oakland, California for 7 years. And we're just so used to busy, hustle, bustle. I didn't realize how much my nervous system needed peace. And it was through being in that kind of environment, just in nature, hearing the birds chirp, that I realized how powerful we are as human beings, and how sometimes we hide behind these things like money and a title and the kind of company we work at. But how at the core there's a purpose that we each have. And sometimes when we take a step back from those things, only does that get revealed. And for me at the retreat center, it was very special because they had different kinds of retreats. They had silent retreats, so I had to spend a week just being silent. They had art retreats. they had writing retreats, they had drumming retreats, and I was able to lean into these retreats and participate in everyone, especially if it was a private retreat. But I participated in the drumming retreat, for example, and I didn't realize how much I just needed to use my hands and have music in my life. And so things like that, I think, led to who I am today. No doubt that led to who I am today in terms of playfulness and incorporating music and trying to do these things on my own time, right? So,
yeah, I can hear a little baby. Little baby in the background.
He's awake.
How did I get so lucky to, how long have we known each other now? 6 years?
No, longer, because my oldest is 6, and I got involved in Sidewalk Talk, which I want to make sure we talk about. I got involved in Sidewalk Talk before I had kids. So I think we've known each other for a good 8 years.
How lucky
Which is
am
crazy.
I that you put up with me, because I don't think I'm the easiest. I'm like a tornado of ideas and very mercurial and moody and anxious, and you always come in and go, so Traci, what is the intention here? And here's the plan. I mean, this is why you're good at your job. I mean, you used all your job skills with me, and I'm curious what drew you to the project. You've committed so much of your efforts and time. It's a real devotion for you, and I'm grateful to you for it. But why is this meaning? Why is Sidewalk Talk in particular meaningful to you?
Yeah. Well, thank you for starting Sidewalk Talk, Traci. I don't think I've ever formally thanked you for this work that you have put into the world, because it has absolutely transformed thousands of people. And I know that you know the numbers, you know this, but I don't think it goes without me publicly thanking you for this work. It has truly been an honor to participate in this endeavor that you have put so much energy, so much sweat, blood, and tears into. For me, I got involved in Sidewalk Talk because I had recently, prior to hearing about Sidewalk Talk at a church that I was going to in Oakland, I had heard about someone named Dale Davis, who was a Black man who was a musician, who for 30 years had befriended Ku Klux Klan members. Something I don't think I would ever have the courage to do. I don't think I would ever do that. But I admire Dale for sitting down for dinner with a lot of these Klansmen. And oftentimes, and you know his story, Traci, but for those people, if you're listening to this story and you're hearing about Dale for the first time, he would sit down for dinner with Klansmen, and oftentimes they realize, I kind of like you. This guy's kind of interesting. Maybe I'm not racist after all. They develop a friendship. They realize oftentimes their hatred was misguided, and they would leave the Klan, the Ku Klux Klan. So Dale has over 200 people who have left the Klan, which is insane. And so I had heard about him, right? And then I heard about Sidewalk Talk and the power of just sitting down with people, getting to hear who they are, getting to see who they are, listen, no advice. And I couldn't say no to that. My favorite story, there's so many of them, but I think my favorite one had nothing to do with race. It's nothing extraordinary. It was a therapist who was probably, I would say she might have been 59 to 63 range. She was walking in the farmers market area in Oakland, California. And she came to sit down. She kind of just plopped down. She had this bag full of groceries. And she was just there was something about her, this really sweet spirit. And I didn't know she was a therapist at the time, right? When she sat down. But she had this little smile on her face, and she just started talking about what was going on for her. And then all of a sudden she started crying. She started crying because she said, wow, I really needed someone to talk to. My best friend, who I've been best friends with for 30 years, just passed away. This is the first weekend that I am going to this farmer's market by myself
Oh,
without my best friend. And then she pulled herself together and she said, wow, I can't believe I'm crying in front of a stranger. I'm a therapist. Clearly, I needed someone who would listen to me.
mm,
And I was just so touched, right? The power of sidewalk talk. How no matter if somebody's 15 years old or 63 years old, no matter if they're a therapist or a teacher, doesn't matter if they had a title at all,
yeah.
right? It was just about seeing the humanity in people. Yeah.
Just seeing your face light up talking about this story, it doesn't seem like it just impacted her. You still hold her in your heart. You're telling her story right now. And I'm just curious how it impacts you when you hold and remember people and their stories like this that you would have never met.
Exactly. I think that's the key. I think that's how it impacted me, because I would have never met this person. What kind of chance would I ever have been sitting down with somebody who starts crying to me about losing somebody in their life?
Mm-hmm.
Loss is so significant, right? When we go through a loss, or when we have somebody who we love that dies, someone being able to open up, it's just such an honor and privilege to hold that space for her, space that she didn't even know she needed. And that's why I think sidewalk talk is so powerful, because it's space that people don't even realize they need. It's connection people don't realize they need as well.
That's powerful. I think that's right. You know, sometimes when I would go down and sit with my chapter, I would start by just being listened to, because I just come off a long day of seeing clients, and I'd always sit down with Aaron, who will come on next week, and I would cry. I would just cry, sometimes not knowing why. I would just release whatever I was holding. And I didn't know I needed it until I sat there. It really got listened to. Like, there was a bunch of feelings going on inside of me that I didn't know I had, because I was too busy being busy, or holding space for others. So I appreciate you bringing that to the foreground.
Yeah. So Traci, you felt like when you would sit down, it released like the busyness from the everyday world, and you were able to connect with a different part of yourself.
Totally. What great listening for parts too. Yeah, that's why we put chairs down. Not everybody chooses the chair, but I think there is something a little bit radical about inviting someone to sit on a sidewalk where you're usually moving. There is a little bit of artistry to that. We put the chairs there because when you sit, these parts of you come out than when you're standing sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're right, not everybody would stop by. Sometimes people would just smile or laugh and say, oh, like, But sometimes, Traci, I don't know if you experienced this, sometimes people would pass by like, more than once, and then they'd finally sit down. And I always love that. I would always love, like, didn't the person pass by twice like already? Sometimes they'd come back.
I think my favorite passerby story, if you'll indulge me with your listening, even though I'm interviewing you, was we were in Louisville, Kentucky doing the bus tour. And the things after the U.S. presidential election were pretty intense and emotional. And this woman was riding by on her bike, and she gasped. And then she stopped, and she started sobbing. And she couldn't even come over and talk to us until after she was done crying. And then she came up to me. I was the greeter at that point. And she said, oh my God, my spirit just needed to see this. I just needed to see people listening to each other. And can I just give you a hug? Because I just didn't believe it was possible. And in many ways, that story lives inside of me. And whenever my own inner critic says, why are you doing this? Who do you think you are? I remember her and stories like hers that keep me going, truly. I almost feel like I'm going to cry telling it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
So you guys see, she's a better listener than me. You guess.
No, I've learned so much from you around listening.
Well, we did something together. We built something together.
We did something amazing.
let's talk about here, because we're getting ready to start teaching it again, because we think that folks need the emotional sustenance, much like this story of this woman leading up to this US election. Because here is a lot more than just training. We really gather in community and practice every dang skill. So you don't come into a meeting, we throw up a bunch of we don't throw up any PowerPoints. We practice the whole time, and you end up feeling incredibly bonded to these other people. So I just want to get your sort of, I want to guess, because you already came into here knowing so much about nonviolent communication, knowing about conflict resolution, and knowing about listening, what do you think that we're doing differently or is unique about here?
Yes. Okay. So what's unique and different about here? There's a few things that I think are radically different, and I think I'm a little biased. I think everything's unique about here, especially because this was really your baby, right? And there's a few things I think I'll point out, just for anyone who's listening who might want to join the course. A few things I'll point out that I think people have really loved and have held dear to them throughout the course. The first thing is this concept of listening as a core value. Like, we really lean into that. If you think about listening, oftentimes we think about it as this skill that you learn, and it's a skill you pick up and you put down. But I love how we lean into the fact that listening really is a core value. People who have come to the course have shared that that's one of the number one things that has shifted their relationship with people around them.
It's beautiful that it's not a skill that you can, it's not utilitarian. It's actually a way of living. It's a way of life, is what I hear you saying.
Yes.
It's really good. Yeah. I love hearing that.
Yes. I think another thing is the centered self. So challenging people by asking, okay, is your listening self-centered? Or is it centered through your centered self? Where self-centered is, right, about what I want to say. Oftentimes we're thinking about what we want to say, how we want to come across. My agenda, right? Am I truly present with this person? As opposed to the centered self, and you can talk more about this, Traci, but being centered, right? Am I grounded? Am I truly connected to that person? What's the attitude I'm bringing?
Yeah, we bring in a lot of internal family system stuff and look at, are you moving from a part of self that might put your agenda before the other person? Like a part of you that's protecting yourself in some way, or a part of you that's moving into a power over position in the dialogue, right? I have to work on that a lot because my doing mind puts me in this, let's achieve. And so we help people track, when is a part of me moving into the foreground and I'm no longer centering the other person. I'm sort of, it's not to shame anyone, but I'm centering parts of myself that are protective or trying to get power, things like that. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me in.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's a big takeaway for Traci. I think it's something novel that not a lot of people had heard of prior to taking the course, and just being able to recognize those states in themselves as well as other people is something that I think is unique.
Good point. That we teach folks to listen for when other people are in parts. I forgot about that. I really need to take this course. I was just saying that to Elle or someone the other day. I said it to Elle. I'm like, wow, I need to take this here course. It's a good practice. I love teaching it and practicing it. So yeah. I'm curious if you learned anything new. Like, what was surprising for you? Like, I didn't actually even know this.
Well, I think there's so much that's been new. I mean, the parts of self were interesting. There's so much, and I think embodiment is what's really cool about the course is a lot of people, and I knew about embodiment, right, from a theoretical perspective. I hadn't really applied it to my listening. Right? Like, what I love about the course is we help people really think about their nervous system and how to regulate their nervous system And we know that when we're calm, we're more creative, we're more present, we're healthier people, we're able to show up better for our teams, whether it's a family team at home or a work team. And I think understanding fear, how that shows up in the body,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about emotions and where they live. And I think that for me, that was probably one of my favorite things because I hadn't connected that to listening prior to the course.
Ah, that makes me so happy. Oh, this has been amazing. Well, I guess the piece that I also wanted to ask you, because I wanted to toot your horn, you are such a stellar. Your co-creation of here was really about making a curriculum that people ingested, metabolized. How did you become such a good curriculum designer? I mean, we didn't just like throw this up. You made me go test this with a bunch of people and get feedback. And I'm like, no, I just want to be impulsive. You're like, no, Traci, we're going to test this. We're going to get feedback. The stuff that's not working, we're going to fix. We're going to make sure and think about the dashboard and how people are going to use the content. I mean, you used empathy in the entire design process. How you're an amazing curriculum designer, and you didn't mention that in your intro. Where'd you learn all this stuff?
Well, I think you're being a little too generous saying that. So
No.
I think it comes back to listening, Traci. I think for me, it goes back to like, let's hear what people have to say and let's tweak, let's make some improvements. For me, I remember one of the first, I used to work for an organization, Black Girls Code. Black Girls Code, where they would teach young girls how to code. And I was the first employee ever that Kimberly had hired, Kimberly Bryant. And my role there was making things better and asking we had, so a little bit of context, we had people from Mozilla, from Facebook, from LinkedIn, from all these big tech companies who were programmers who would volunteer their time to teach young girls of color how to code, how to program. And I would spend a lot of time listening to them, getting feedback about what was working, what wasn't working, how do we shift, how do we improve. And that kind of stuff just like lights me up. I'm so weird about that. Customer service, being able to listen to customers and make improvements. I like dream about that. It's so weird. It's so odd. I used to actually, Traci, I never told you this. When I was moving out of Oakland and when I was moving to leave Oakland to go to the retreat center, I found a box of customer service stuff that I had collected over the years.
You are a weirdo. Like, this is an example of good customer service. Like, that's what the box was.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Like things that stood out to me. I love, I'm like chuckling. I can't believe I'm saying this publicly.
It's I'm feeling kind of excited to know this about you. The inner nerd in Travia is coming out. I think it's a really cool skill, though, because if you think about it, customer service, good customer service is love. I remember I crashed my car and I called Geico because they were my insurance company. I'm sure Geico's going to love this, but it's a positive thing. And the first thing that the person says is, "How are you doing? Are you okay?"
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And I went, "You mean you're not going to just treat me like somebody that pays you money? You just ask me if I'm okay.
Care about me."
So you can't collect that in your box, but there's a story for your list.
Traci, I love that story. What did that do for you with your relationship with Geico and after that car accident? Because the car
Loyal
accident can be
forever.
pretty traumatic.
Loyal forever. Loyal for whatever.
That's amazing. Those kind of memories, right? I love hearing about stories like that and creating those kind of moments. And I hope that we can do that with more people and help them be seen, help them be heard throughout their experience.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me, Traci.
Yeah. Thank
It's
you
huge.
for sharing your devotion to good customer service. Harry is listening. He just said, I hope that Travia's odd becomes the standard in our culture. I agree.
Hi, Harry. Hi, Harry. Good to see you. We have to connect.
I love your giggles. Oh, geez.
Oh, my goodness. It's good to spend time with you, Traci.
You too. I'm so happy to have you on. It's been too long. I'm gonna try to bring Claire on too. I don't know if she'll do it. She does operations behind the scenes. But these are all the folks that we keep Sidewalk Talk together. We need to have Amy Rosen on too.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say to you, I'm gonna be emotional. Okay. Just thank you for being a partner with me in every sense of the word. Yeah. Like we've had some tussles together. We've had some fear together. We've had some incredible creative excitement together. And I love being around smart people because I learn in connection. I've said this many times in these live streams, and I learn a lot from you. And so I also appreciate your generosity in teaching me stuff. Yeah. So thanks for sticking it out with me, lady.
Traci, the feeling is 100% mutual. 100% mutual. I've learned so much from you, and every time I talk to you, I'm like writing new things down. Like there's a new book I've got to read, a new podcast I've got to listen to.
Same, always. You're the best. Okay, we're gonna launch here. So there's already a sign up page where you can express your interest, and we're kind of asking for where you're located because that's helping drive the time zones that we're going to offer. So you can go to our website. I'll put it in the notes to add your interest, and then Travia and I are going to quickly start sorting through and figuring out the dates. I think it's going to be really nourishing coming up to this next U.S. election for folks to really be in community. It'll really nourish your soul, swear to God. And this is the part where it's really fun because you're not talking to me anymore. I hand off the mic and you're speaking to all those listeners that have listened or will listen around the world, either a wish or words of wisdom that you would offer them.
Yes.
Take it away, Miss Travia.
Well, if you're listening to this, I hope to see you in the Here course. We are going to build some great connections with everybody who joins the course. And I can guarantee that you will look at listening differently than you've ever looked at listening before. Hope to see you in this course. Thanks for joining, everyone.
That's her wish, is to hope to see you in the course. Excellent. Thanks, Travia, for being here. And for everyone that listens, that was listening live, thank you. For those that are going to listen to the recording, you're still here with us, even though it's not live. And thanks for tuning in after the fact. And then this will go live on the podcast too. So thanks, Travia. You'll get to live on in time, this conversation.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.